I got a signal generator today in the mail that I ordered from eBay. I paid about $8 for it. Let's see what we got. So we have a bag full of parts here in a nice little box. So we have a circuit board, a bag full of resistors, and capacitors, a little case to put it in, and let's see if we got some instructions. Okay, well, I'm going to definitely need my glasses for this one. Well, I'm not going to bore you with the soldering, but let's take this apart and sort this out and see what we got. So we have we have a 1K ohm resistor, 330 ohm resistor, and 3 5K resistors. And instead of giving me the values on the drawing for the capacitors here, they just simply put the numbers that are on the actual capacitor. In other words, one says 222, which would be 22 microfarads, I think. Regardless, it doesn't matter because we just simply look at the number on here corresponds to a number printed on the capacitor, and I really don't care what the value is as long as it works, because I'm not engineering it, I'm just putting it together. So this is an XR2206 function generator. I got the capacitors in there and the resistors and the IC socket. It's always good, well, the best thing to do is use your voltmeter or your ohm meter. Check your resistors because sometimes they're hard to read, and it's just best to make sure you got the correct values. And when you install them, I like to put them, you have like 4 rings here, or colors, that tell you the value of the resistor, and then you have the last one that tells you the tolerance, or is it within 10% of that range or 5% of that range. And it's always good to put them all going the same direction so you can read them, as well as the capacitors. In other words, I put all the capacitors in here in a row, so like the code is facing the same way on all of them, except for this one here is facing that way. So anyhow, when you go to look at them, it's a little bit less confusing. But hopefully I put them all in there right. I'm pretty sure I did. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm in the process of installing the electrolytic capacitors here. And electrolytic capacitors mean that they have a positive and a negative side. And usually they're indicated, like the negative side has a line on it. And the trick here was, I'm looking at the board and it really doesn't tell you which one's positive and negative. It has one part of it here that's has some hash lines through it or something. So by looking at the circuit diagram and following where that goes on the board, so apparently the part that has the lines on it is the negative side. So you have to put them in correctly, or else they'll explode. Well, not explode, but they'll pop open. So I guess I've got everything soldered in here. You want to wait until you're done before you put the socket in, so you don't overheat the IC right here. And when you're done soldering everything, you want to make sure you clean off all the flux on the back here. A little bit of alcohol and a toothbrush, take care of that. I guess this is more of a soldering tutorial than anything, and a review of this XR2206 function generator. So we'll clean this off and then finish it up. So I cleaned this off with some alcohol, got it all cleaned up, and then I blasted it with the air compressor just to make sure it was clean. And I have to put the IC in here. The socket has a little notch in the top of it here, like a half circle, and the chip itself has a notch in the top. This would be pin 1, so that's how that goes together. So I'll put this in the case and then get back to you. Okay, so I have it all put together here. The only thing I have to say about this is the drawings that you get with it are pretty hard to read. It's pretty blurry and difficult to read where the positive and negative goes on the electrolytic capacitors. Other than that, I would say this is a good experiment for a beginner that wants to learn how to solder and build something. The other problem I had with it is you have all the leads on the bottom that come through, so this didn't exactly fit in the case all that perfectly, so I kind of had to smush it down a little bit to get it in there. So let's see how it works. Now, I didn't know how else to test this, so I got a power supply here, 12 volts, goes in there. I got some speakers, the lead to the speakers here. Okay, so it works. Let's see what happens here. Okay, at higher frequencies, I guess these speakers don't react to 1 megahertz, 1 kilohertz. Yikes. Okay, so that's as high as a frequency as I can go on that. So that's good to know. So I can use that to test my antique radio and speakers. Very good.